Greetings. Today's show focus is a concept called Tesla Semi Stuttgart Mystery Solved. So basically what's happened is that the number one place in Europe that is spearheading the use of the Tesla Semi is a place called Stuttgart, Germany. This is a strange thing to hear because Stuttgart is also the headquarters of both Porsche and Daimler Benz. So the question then is, what gives with them leading the charge on sort of demand for the Tesla Semi in the country? And the Tesla Semi is heavily there, even though no delivered copies are rolling into the city yet. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the show, would like some better ideas on investing and trading, please join us. We also would like to ask you to comment if you would. That definitely helps in terms of penetration of the show, etc. So I wanted to do an outdoor show today. I have been doing shows at home and I got complaints about the bad wall behind me. Then I decided to do some shows in the car, and the question is, are you sleeping in the car? So now that I'm outdoors, the question is, am I sleeping outdoors? We just got the leaves to stick around longer, so I just think they look cool. At any rate, wanted to get on to our show. So I had a meeting with someone today who spent 2 years, 2016 to 2018, in Stuttgart, Germany. What they shared with me was that just like LA, Stuttgart, Germany is in a basin or a bowl. So what happens is that they have huge pollution problems, and those pollution problems are so bad that folks who live there are testing negatively relative to health effects of the particles. So they tried to clean up a large number of these particles by addressing pollution in different ways. But the latest way that they've come to is looking at the particulate matter that's generated by diesel fuel. So I wanted to take some time to address this because I just think this is awesome. So what happened is, approximately 3.5 years ago, the former CEO of Daimler was angry. The reason he was angry is that it turns out that the EU and Germany has now imposed all kinds of fines if the manufacturers of cars and trucks don't, particularly trucks, start moving heavily towards electric or other ways to power their vehicles, particularly trucks, that don't pollute the environment as badly. So as a result, they did a sort of a phase-out period, which has now been arrived at, and they're getting fined if they're not producing these vehicles. Daimler's solution has been to put out what they could in the form of, I want to say, a bad semi, which is a truck that its battery is so heavy that it's not cost efficient, the load that they're able to carry because of the weight of those batteries. So they, as we discussed in a previous show, Daimler's had this thing going where they built a number of trucks of different sizes, class 7 and class 8, and they distributed it to customers free of charge around the world. They also had a small group in the range of 10, I believe, that were delivered to the port of Los Angeles as a way, at $400,000 a copy. They used that as a way to sort of get their vehicles out there and in front of customers before Tesla was able to get in the marketplace at scale. The challenge, though, is those vehicles are really prototypes, not finished production, and the numbers they're generating are actually quite poor when you compare to Tesla. So yes, you're asking the question, how does the arrival of the semi in the US affect product arrivals in Stuttgart, Germany? Well, the answer to that is that what the EU did is they used the specs from the Tesla semi to drive legislation policy in Germany and other parts of Europe. So all of a sudden, as Daimler and others state, it's impossible to use electric when you have to haul large loads up and down those mountains. You know, the EU could justify it when there wasn't a Tesla semi, but now that the Tesla semi exists and it's on the verge of getting to scale production, this puts even more pressure on domestic manufacturers to transition their trucks into the renewable energy space. So, hence, a vehicle that has not arrived in Germany can be affecting the specs in Germany. Another note is that, as you may recall, Daimler or Tesla is now seeking licensing to operate their trucks on weekends. So because of noise and pollution, the diesel trucks weren't allowed to deliver products on weekends, but because it's electric, you now can have the Tesla Semi, when approved, once it arrives, it can operate 7 days a week. Obviously a lot more efficient than a limited number of days of 5 a week that they can currently do because of noise and pollution in those areas. So as of now, and I believe the beginning of this year, there's a new rule in Stuttgart, Germany, that no diesel trucks are allowed, and Daimler is actually putting out a Class 7 truck, and it claims by the end of this year it will have a Class 8 truck on the road that's ready to handle deliveries in places like Stuttgart, where these diesels are banned. So I have to say kudos to Tesla, the Tesla team, and what's going on here, because I didn't, part of my question mark on the show for a while has been, we have a lot of viewers that are actually European based, particularly when we do shows about the Semi, and this is one of those cases. And there was a wonderment on my part. One, you guys don't have those vehicles yet, even in a test phase as we have in the United States. And two, when you do get them, it's going to be a while. But given that legislation is being driven based on the specs of that truck, this is a very interesting situation, and another illustration of where there'll be a lot of sales of Tesla Semi once it's at scale and arriving in the hands of customers. So I'd have to say it's unfortunate to hear of pollution issues that they have in the bowl that is Stuttgart, Germany, but it is exciting to see that a lot of competitors are being forced to join the parade of electric vehicles that are making a huge difference in reducing the amount of pollution that those folks have to live with. So this isn't, as usual, our large show, but I was impressed by this. One final note here is that, as you know, in the last 24 hours-ish, we've started to see Tesla stock bubble at or above 230, now heading for 240. I may have to say that our chartist from last week that we discussed had articulated that 236 was the target for the charts before a pullback, and I'm pleasantly surprised to see this is actually happening. The other issue is that as we close in on the arrival of the Cybertruck, yes, I think there's some excitement there, but there's also this issue going on of there are some folks that thought the Cybertruck may be kind of a fake item that may not ever arrive, given how long the delay has been. And obviously that's not the case. So where we are now is we're on a countdown. We're 15 days away from the arrival of the Cybertruck. As you know, there's a $50K fee that you have to pay if you decide to flip it. I have to say that that $50K may be a little bit too low for some people, because as you may recall, when it came to VW, they actually bought 2 Model 3s for, I believe, either 3 or 4x times list value. So I believe that in the first 100, there are going to be folks that pay out 3 or 4 times the current value or the charge of that car, because there are so many entities that need to have at least one, if not 2 or 3, on hand to do testing and evaluating relative to what they're doing with their vehicles. And so, Elon, good idea on that 50K, but for the first 200 to 500 vehicles, you may have to make it 100K, because when you're risking billions of dollars in sales, a few 100K is not that big a deal. So don't be surprised if you see that Cybertruck on a Lufthansa flight ×2 and being flown directly to Germany without passing go, or other sort of important hubs around the world. So I wanted to also remind you an encouragement to look up a concept on our, that's the rest of our formal discussion. We're moving on to, right now, to our discussion of health. And I wanted to encourage you to consider taking a look at something called complex carbohydrates. At any rate, might be helpful in all of your processes of eating and maintaining good health. At any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. Tschüss, au revoir, le Heathrow, Hota Hepa, Ni Hao Ma, Kumbawa, Heido, Namaste. And in Jamaica, we say enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.